Hey, it's Philip Reiser. I don't do things anymore on this channel, but I'm back to talk about the Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch has become my favorite gaming console of all time. Is it the most powerful? No, but it has more games on it that I care about than just about any other console I've ever had. So I'm very excited about the Switch 2. And I, along with pretty much everyone else who cares about the Switch 2, have dreams, wishes, hopes for games that may come to the system. But today I'm going to go through my top 10 game hopes, game wishes for the Nintendo Switch 2. Things I would like to see on there, but that probably won't happen. Except for two of them, which are very likely, and I'll get into that later. I'm going to start with the one that I care the least about, and end on the one that I am most excited, most hopeful for. So, number 10 is Pokemon Let's Go TCG Pocket. Now, that kind of just sounds like an Amazon listing where someone threw a bunch of words together and it doesn't really actually mean anything, but here's what I'm talking about. I have never been a huge Pokemon guy. I don't care much about Pokemon, the video game. I don't care much about Pokemon, the card game. I don't hate it, but I also don't care about it that much. There are other video games and other card games that I prefer. But the one time that I became slightly interested in Pokemon as a video game was Pokemon Let's Go. Not because those games were good, but just because they had co-op. If I'm going to play Pokemon, a game that I don't typically care about, I want to play it with one of my close friends so we can both have our own little Pokemon and relish the experience together. I thought that game was alright as far as Pokemon games go for someone like me who would not normally play them. But I would like a more interesting combat system than what Pokemon typically brings. The stuff that they're showing off in Pokemon ZA, that looks more interesting, but I'm a big card game guy, just not Pokemon specifically. So if they introduced something along the lines of Pokemon TCG Pocket, but then put it in a video game, alongside some co-op video game gameplay where me and my friend are playing cards from the actual Pokemon TCG, now I'm starting to get on board. Now, do I think Nintendo will make a game like this? Absolutely not. Why would Nintendo want to make a game, a Pokemon game, that changes up a system in a way that is tailored towards a person who has actively said he doesn't care about Pokemon? They have no reason to do that. The likelihood of this happening is very, very slim. But if Nintendo Switch games were being made specifically for me and no one else, this would be the Pokemon game that gets made. Now let's move on to my number 9, which I think will be much more widely appealing. More people than just me want this. This is a new game in the Mario Maker series, but not just Mario Maker 3. No. That's too boring. If I want to play Mario Maker 3, I'll just play Mario Maker 2, and then that's it. I can't imagine what else they would do to make the third one worthwhile, unless they put an interesting spin on it. And there are two interesting spins that I would like to see. One, which I'm less excited about but would still be very cool, is Super Zelda Maker, a game where you can make your own Legend of Zelda dungeons in the style of the older Zelda games, but with updated, better-looking graphics, and share your dungeons with other people to play through. I think that would be super cool. It's like an RPG Maker-style thing, having all the different enemies from all the different Zeldas. They could even import, they could make some of the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom enemies in a pixel art style, dump them into that old-timey Zelda dungeon goodness. And I think that would be very cool to see. How do these newer enemies translate to this older dungeon crawl top-down style? I think they've talked about doing something like this before, or else it's just kind of been incorporated in small ways into other games. Like, didn't Link's Awakening have something where you could combine pieces of dungeons together and do that? I think they had something akin to that, but it wasn't super fleshed out. And then I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard from some source that I don't know if they have any reason to be believed, that at one point Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, the Zelda-led game, was going to be a dungeon maker, but then they pivoted for some reason that I can't understand. I just want them to go full in on that idea. Give us a Zelda Dungeon Maker, make it as easy to get into as Mario Maker, and I will buy it. But you know what I would buy even sooner? Mario Maker 3D. Third dimension. I'm not talking 3D land. We had that in Mario Maker 2. That's not real 3D. That's fake 3D. Stop making stuff up. I want to be able to make Mario 64 style levels in a level builder with that Mario Maker simplicity that we can all get into and love. How, like, that's to me the only direction that they could go that would really be groundbreaking. In Mario Maker 2, they already upgraded from Mario Maker 1 so much by allowing you to make interconnected worlds of levels and share those entire worlds with people, or, you know, make levels in all these different styles based on the previous Mario games. They had so many upgrades already. What upgrade could they possibly do that would still be interesting? Make it 3D. We can already make so many cool 2D Mario levels. What if we could make Mario 3D levels too? Obviously not to the extent of something like Odyssey. That would be an insane game-making program to have to create on Nintendo's part. But I think a Mario 64 style one is within reason. It's possible. I'm hoping for this. I'm holding out hope. I don't have too much hope for it, but it's there. And I think we could see it in some distant universe. Okay, now on to my number 8. Nintendo Switch Sports Resort. We got Nintendo Switch Sports. It was alright. Did I play it that much? No. And when I did play it, did I only play bowling? Yes. But you know what? I was thinking back and I was like, I don't think I played the original Wii Sports that much either. I much preferred Wii Sports Resort because I liked the environment more. It was more interesting to look at. I thought the actual games were a lot more varied. You could throw a frisbee to a dog. I don't know why that's the first one I mentioned. That's definitely not one of the shining highlights of that game. Or you could fly a dang plane. Or you could just run around and look for pixel art Mario and go, well, there he is. I'm not really selling the resort thing, but if you played Wii Sports Resort, you know it was a different take on Wii Sports that I think was really warranted and really good. And I want to see that sort of direction being taken with Switch Sports. And also just more polished, I think. A lot of the Switch Sports games in the original Switch Sports were just not, they didn't have a lot of replay value because the systems themselves weren't that enjoyable to use. Like I had high hopes for the tennis in Switch Sports, and every time I played the tennis, I felt like I was just as confused as the first time I played the tennis. And that's how a lot of the games felt to me. It was either too uninteresting for me to want to go back to, or too convoluted and or not explained to me to where I could really get good at the game and want to play it more. The bowling was amazing. The golf was all right. I think if they polish up those, put them on a resort, give us some more resort type games like archery, planes, planes, resort staple. I think that'd be really fun, really good. That's the kind of sports sequel from Nintendo I want to see. Okay, next up, number 7. I'm going to do a little bit of a throwback. You know how on the Switch we just kept getting Mario sports games? Got Mario Tennis, then Mario Golf, then that absolute trash Mario Soccer game. What? That might be my least favorite Switch game of all time. Of the ones I played, at least. I'm sure there are way worse ones, but man, that was not fun. Well, here's my dream Mario sports game. Mario Disc Golf. A game that maybe only I want. How would it be different from Mario Golf on the Switch? I don't know. I mean, there's discs. There's obviously discs instead of a ball. But gameplay-wise, this is all I've got. Okay, obviously, one of the main reasons I want this is because I'm a fan of disc golf in real life. But gameplay-wise, here are some things that I want that I think would be an improvement over the original Mario Golf, which had sort of mixed reviews from people. Either A, make the story mode way more polished, longer, more interesting, so that that story mode feels warranted and fun to play. Or, the thing that I prefer would be just axe the story mode altogether. We don't need that. Take the story mode, throw it in the trash. Instead, focus more of your attention and resources onto just making the courses themselves really good and making more varied game modes. Like maybe there's a normal golf mode and there's also something like what everybody's golf is apparently doing, where there's like random events that happen in the middle of you golfing and you have to adapt your playstyle to whatever just happened. Oh, now there's a giant chain chomp that just appeared in the middle of the course. I have to deal with that. That might sound bad to you, but every once in a while you might want to switch up your disc golf game. And you can, if they do something like that. I just want more options, more ways for me to play Mario Golf. More quality and more quantity. That's a big ask for a game company to do both at the same time, but that is what I want, and I can dream. My number 6, I feel like we've really, after Mario Disc Golf, I really needed to come swinging with something that a lot of people could be like, yeah, you know what, I agree with you there, but I don't know if people are going to care about this at all. This is another me thing. A new Clubhouse Games game that abandons the board games and just focuses on the other stuff. Think about Clubhouse 51 games. Of the 51 games, about 30 or so of them were pretty well-recognized board and card games like blackjack, checkers. I think they had chess. It'd be weird if they didn't, but I never played it. Mahjong, Ludo. Who was playing Ludo on Clubhouse 51 games? Who was doing that? And yeah, those are fine, like once. And I like board games. I want to emphasize that. I actually really like board games. Just the board games I prefer are more hobby-style board games, not checkers. So, for me, the shining jewel of Clubhouse 51 games was all the stuff that wasn't board games. I'm talking the fishing minigame, kind of, billiards, bowling, that shooting game, tanks. There's just a lot of Clubhouse games could go in a direction where it's more focused on mini games as opposed to board games, and not Mario-style mini games, Mario Party style. Because those are very much their own thing, and I don't think they're as fun to play just on their own without the context of a larger game going on. I want more minigames like billiards, like darts, like those. I felt like they did a really good job in Clubhouse 51 games with all the ones that weren't board games. And I want to see more of them. Yeah, I guess the same thing I said last time, more quality and quantity. Can they do it? I don't know. Will they do it? I doubt it. But that's what I want. And that's what I'm asking for. Okay, good. Now we are past the bottom 5. The top 5 is where I really get excited. This is the big stuff. That if this comes to the Switch 2, I might explode. My head might just blow up and then I'll never get to play the game, even though I really wanted to. Number 5 is a franchise that too many people have dunked on for years. I'm talking ARMS 2. ARMS was not as bad as people made it out to be. Was it one of the greatest Switch games of all time? No. But it has the potential to become a mainstay franchise, I think, if they just put more effort into fleshing out the game more. The main issue I had with ARMS was not that the gameplay was boring, it was that it was kind of all the same. And there needed to be more to do. If there's going to be an ARMS story mode, like I said with the golf game, either flesh it out way more and make it super interesting, or get rid of the story mode altogether and just make the other stuff so numerous and so good that you don't even care that you don't get a story mode, because the other stuff you can just play for hours and hours on end. I don't even think ARMS 2 would need a significantly bigger roster to make it seem good. You could just have the same roster from ARMS 1 and throw in 2 new people who are like the new Springman and Ribbon Girl to be the face of the franchise, and then just spend the rest of the time and effort making the game on making the combat and all of the other game modes that I hope they make way more interesting. I actually think ARMS 2 does have a chance of existing. Of the ones that I'm throwing out here, this one is less of a pipe dream. And I really want to see ARMS shine and succeed in a way that the original ARMS, I mean, I think it was commercially successful. It just wasn't super highly praised as a game for kind of obvious reasons, but like I said, it wasn't bad. I want to see ARMS reach its full potential, and I think if they take a second swing at it and really give it a good, solid try, they can do it. They can make ARMS legendary. My number 4, I don't even have to dream that hard. It actually has dream in the name, and it is Tomodachi Life 2, Living the Dream. I've been wanting a new Tomodachi Life for years, and now we know it's coming, because it was in the Switch 1 Direct. So I guess instead of just saying, hey, I want a new Tomodachi Life game, the dream part of this, the hope part of this will be, well, what do I hope appears in the new Tomodachi Life game whenever it shows up in 2026? And the only thing I really want, there's 2 things. 1, a more in-depth Mii Maker, akin to like what we got with the Miitopia remaster on Switch. And then also, I want them to take a little bit of a cue from Sims. Don't just copy The Sims. That would be bad. Tomodachi Life is great because it does things that Sims doesn't. They are very different games despite both being life simulators in a way. So I don't want it to become Sims, but I do want it to take one element from Sims, which is make the Miis actually have lives. Like, in the original Tomodachi Life, it was always fun to see what problems the Miis had in their apartments and stuff, and every once in a while you would see the Miis around the island elsewhere outside of the main apartment, but they didn't really do a whole lot. It didn't feel like they had lives. You know, for Miis to be living the dream, they need to be living. And to me, it was never that convincing that the Tomodachi Life Miis were alive. They seem like kind of soulless beings trapped within the confines of 4 walls. Especially at the beginning when there was no furniture for any of them. I want them to have, like, you know, maybe they have jobs that they actually go to and you can visit them at their jobs. That wouldn't make a ton of sense because I feel like they're on an island vacation getaway in the game. But, you know, something like that, where you can actually go to the apartment and it's like, oh, your Mii isn't here right now. He's out doing this interesting thing. And then you go visit and you can see what the heck he's doing, what antics he's getting up to. But otherwise, as long as we're getting another Tomodachi Life with updated graphics and stuff, I'm happy. Now on to my number 3. This is another one, 2 in a row, that I don't have to hope for much at all, because I know we're getting it. And that is a new Mario Kart, which I hope will be called Mario Kart 9. The main thing I don't want is for them to have skipped Mario Kart 9, because they say that, like, Tour is 9 and they go straight to 10. I don't like when companies do that. If you skip from 8 to 10 just because you don't like the number 9, you're a coward. Embrace the number 9. It's a fine number. Calm down. So yeah, we know we're getting a new Mario Kart. We know it's coming. I like the graphic design changes. Yes, Donkey Kong looks a little weird, but I respect it. I like when Nintendo doesn't take the completely safe route. I like when they switch things up a little bit, whether that be visually or gameplay-wise. And that's my main hope for this game, is that this will switch up the Mario Kart gameplay. Not completely, because that would be terrible. People like Mario Kart for a reason. But I hope it introduces something new on top of the racing stuff we love. Like, for example, there was a racing game that I was hopeful for about a year and a half ago called Lego 2K Drive. It was a Lego racing game made by the people at 2K. It wasn't good. It could have been worse, I guess, but I didn't like it. But it had a cool concept where you had this open world with multiple lands you could drive around. And then throughout this land, you would stop, and then it would give you a quest or a race to do. You would do that, and then get dropped back into the open world again. I think if Mario Kart 9 embraces a sort of open world aspect, that will bring Mario Kart into this new fresh territory that Mario Kart hasn't seen in a long time. I think the closest we've got to seeing Mario Kart branch into new territory is Double Dash introducing like 2 racers per kart, and Tour introducing the changing tracks each lap. Those are cool changes. I appreciate that, but they don't breathe a whole new life into what Mario Kart is. It's certainly different, but it's not a complete game changer. To me, I think an open world would be enough of a game changer to where it would really get people talking. And we've seen in the trailer that the track is pretty dang big. Well, I say the trailer, it's more like a teaser. I'm talking about the first Switch 2 unveiling by Nintendo. But yeah, I really just want to see Mario Kart on a larger, more adventurous, epic scale that it's never seen before. It's more than just racing. It is a whole world to explore and do stuff in. Next, my number 2. This is, now we've gotten into my greatest of dreams. These are the 2 things that I want to see so bad, and I think we're going to see one of them, and I think we're not going to see the other. We might not see the one that I think we're getting immediately, but we're going to see it at some point throughout the Switch 2's life. And that is my number 2, a new, actually compelling Fire Emblem game. I had never played a Fire Emblem game before Three Houses, and something inspired me to download Three Houses and try it out, and oh my gosh, I was hooked from the first second that the cutscene began playing. I was so blown away. I did not expect anything nearly as good as what I got in that first cutscene, and then the entire game was that good. Were the background graphics really bad sometimes? Yes. But the rest of the game was so good. I didn't care if the background was just like a solid color. It could have just been green back there. Like, well, stand in front of a green screen. Insert your own background. The game was so good. The story was so good. The characters and dialogue were all so well done. I could care less about any graphical issues. It was incredible. And I've heard a lot of Fire Emblem superfans say that, like, if you're really into Three Houses, you're not actually into Fire Emblem as a franchise. I disagree with that, because after I went and played Three Houses, I went back and played Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem, I played a bit of Awakening as well. I think I also played a bit of Shadow Dragon, if I'm remembering correctly. And I liked all of those too. Did I like them as much? No. But, like, I didn't have many complaints. I like the Fire Emblem combat style. I like how it's a little bit board gamey, very tactical. So I was really looking forward to another Fire Emblem game after that came out. And then we got Fire Emblem Engage, where the visuals looked great, and the gameplay for the combat, like, probably the best it's ever been. But the story and the characters and dialogue were so bad. They were so unbelievably bad that I could not continue playing the game. It didn't matter how good the gameplay was. It kind of felt like a joke at times. It felt like whoever made the game wasn't even taking the story seriously. They were just leaning into cliches the whole time. Or, I don't know, I've heard people say that they made the story simpler so that new people who have never played a Fire Emblem game before could use that as a jumping on point, and like younger kids could get into it. But I don't know. I think that's a sad excuse if that's the case. It's underestimating how smart kids can be if that's the case. Like, if you have to make your story absolutely horrendously bad and boring for kids to be able to understand it, I think you're going at it the wrong way. I think kids are much smarter than a lot of kids game developers and cartoon makers give kids credit for. So I want a Fire Emblem that doesn't have to be like Three Houses, but has as compelling of a story and characters and dialogue and all that good stuff as Three Houses, with some of the gameplay improvements and graphical improvements of Engage. Just a really good, solid Fire Emblem franchise installment. I don't really have any more specific hopes than that. I don't care what they do with it. I actually don't want to have any more specific hopes than that, because I want them to surprise me. I want the story to really catch me off guard. I want them to go somewhere crazy with it. Just like they did in Three Houses at times. Like when I was playing through the Golden Deer route, and then suddenly I was in this place that looked like Tron Legacy, and I was very confused. The surprises, the wonder of Three Houses is what made it so good. And now my number one most wanted game that I honestly don't think we're going to see throughout the entirety of the Switch 2's life is a new Smash Bros. Game. Now, before I go on, let me say that Smash Bros. Ultimate is so insanely good, even still, even so many years after it came out, that there's really no reason to make a new Smash Bros. Game. The roster's huge. The gameplay is as great as it's ever been. I know some people still say Melee's the best. I can see why if you're that kind of gamer, but for someone like me who prefers more casual fighting games, Ultimate is by far the best. There's almost nothing about Ultimate that I don't like. Do I wish the story mode was a little more interesting? Sure, but I don't mind that much. It was a wonderful, amazing experience. It was probably my number one Switch game, tied with Fire Emblem. Yeah, where could they go? How could they get better? I don't know if they can. At least not this soon. Especially given that Sakurai has been working nonstop on Smash games for so long. I don't even know how many years. His entire life has been Smash. So I don't want him to have to immediately go and make another Smash game, but yeah, I assume he will one day, and it'll probably be amazing. Will it be on the Switch 2? I doubt it. But I hope he does, and I will be all over that thing because Smash Bros. Is just a magical experience. It really is. It made all of the past Nintendo Directs from that era feel that much more exciting. You didn't know if a guy was going to be revealed for Smash or who it was going to be. If it was going to be Byleth, which everyone hated but me. Yeah, that's... So here's the thing, if I don't think they can really make a better Smash Bros. Game at this point, then why am I still wanting it? Well, one, just because I love Smash Bros. That much. Anything about that franchise would excite me, even if I don't think it's going to be better. But two, I think now, since I imagine Sakurai is pretty tired of making Smash Bros. Games and wants a pretty hefty break, I think this is a good opportunity for them to take Smash Bros. Into a direction that is different and unique and kind of weird. And it doesn't have to be a mainline Smash Bros. Title. It can be a little bit of a spin-off. Like, maybe now it's more three-dimensional and you can move around and fight people. Something ARMS-like, but without the stretchy arms. That might not sound good to you, but I'm not always looking for something that's like the best option when it comes to Switch. Like I said, I like when they surprise me. I like when they innovate, when they take an interesting approach with it. And if they're going to hold off on a mainline Smash title for a while, as I think they should, because how could they possibly beat the previous one? How could they possibly improve? They might as well take it in a weird direction as a little a side quest game. Let me know in the comments if you have an idea for a kind of Smash Bros. Game that could be interesting, that could take the series in a direction we haven't seen before and not necessarily be a mainline Smash Bros. Title. Or if you have an idea for a way that they could genuinely improve on Ultimate somehow, let me know, because I would love to hear that. Also, let me know your top 10 hopes and dreams for Switch 2 games, because a lot of mine were very specific and weird, and probably I'm the only person who wants them. So I imagine a lot of you guys have games like that as well, where I'm like, wow, I don't agree with you at all, but you do you, man. I'd love to hear them. So leave it in the comments. I'm Philip Reiser. Here's hoping the Switch 2 becomes my new favorite console of all time. Goodbye.